Good morning, friends. How are you? I hope you will be fine and enjoying your time in the company of your dear parents. Due to the COVID-19, our Honorable Prime Minister has extended the lockdown period till 3rd May. So, in this condition, schools and colleges and offices are closed. Our Honorable Principal has decided to run online classes for you so that you can utilize your time in studies. Before starting the class, we will pray Almighty to give us blessing and power to defeat coronavirus. Now let's start the class. Before starting the class, I am going to show you the book which will run this year. See the book. The name of the book is English Trail and the name of the publisher is Headward. Now see once again, the name of the book is English Trail and the publisher's name is Headward. In this book there are 18 chapters and these 18 chapters will be divided in 3 semesters, and in each semester we will complete 6 chapters. So in the first semester 6 chapters will complete. I am going to tell you the name of the chapters. First one, The Road Not Taken, Robert Frost. Second, The Meaning of Education, Cyril Anthony George. Third, The Open Window, Saki. Fourth, The Chimney Sweeper, William Blake. Fifth, The Use of Force, William Carlos William. And The Word in a Wall, it's a 6th chapter, by Gerald Durrell. So these 6 chapters will complete in the first semester. Now I'm going to start the first chapter. The Road Not Taken. First stanza. 2 roads diverge in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both. And be one traveller, long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. Second stanza. Then took the other as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear, though as far that passing there had worn them really about the same. Third stanza. And the both that morning equally lay, in leaves no staves had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. Now see the fourth and final stanza. I shall be telling this with a shy, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverse, two roads diverse in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Taken. This poem has been written by great poet Robert Lee Frost. He was born in 1874 and he was died in 1963. He was great American poet. His first poem, My Butterfly and Elise, was published in 8 November 1894, an edition of the New York Independent. His first 2 poetry volumes, A Boy's Will in 1913 and North of Boston in 1914, were published in London. In 1924, he won the first of 4 Pulitzer Prizes for the book New Hampshire, a poem with notes and the grace notes. He won the other Pulitzer Prizes for collected poems in 1931, a further Range in 1937, and A Witness Tree in 1943. Now I am going to explain the poem. First, see the first stanza. Two roads diverge in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both. And be one traveller long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it went in the undergrowth. Now see the meaning line by line first. Two road diverge in a yellow wood. Going on foot, the poet reaches at a junction, at a point where the two roads diverge in a yellow wood. Yellow, it was, since it was autumn season, the leaves becomes lifeless and turn yellow. This is why poet use here yellow wood. And sorry I could not travel both. He is sorry that he cannot travel the both road. And be one traveller long I stood. Since he is single, he is alone there. He stood there for a long time, what to do? And looked down one as far as I could. He bends and looks one of the roads down as far as he can see, to where it bent in the undergrowth. However, the two roads bent undergrowth means small plants growing under the larger trees, and road was covered with small plants. Now I am going to give the explanation of this stanza. In the first stanza, the poet talks about himself as a traveller arriving at a point in the yellow wood where the roads branches off into two. The yellow woods tell us that it is autumn season, and the poet stands there. He is sad that he cannot take the both roads. He bends and looks as far as he can see to decide which road to take. However, the roads bend at a point and are covered by the small plants, beyond which the road is not visible to the poet. In this stanza, the poet tells us that in the autumn of the journey of our life, we may be called upon to make certain choices, just as the end of the road is not visible from the junction where we have to decide which road to take. The outcomes, the results of the various options we have to choose from may not be clear as we make our choices. Now see the second stanza. Then took the other as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim. Then poet decides to take the other road since it looks favorable, and having perhaps the better claim, bearing in the mind that this road will be more fruitful, better, he decides, because it was grassy and wanted wear, since it was full of grass and less traveled. Though as far that the passing there, while he was passing from there, he noticed had worn them really about the same. He he notices the both roads look exactly the same. There was no difference between these two roads. Now see the explanation. In the second stanza, the poet says that while both the roads seem equally appealing, attracting, one seems less used and worn, and hence the little more inviting, although they look the same. The poet chooses the road less traveled. Some choices that we faced with in life are also just confusing. Both options seem equally inviting, appealing. Now see the third stanza. And both that morning equally lay in leaves, no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way. I doubted if I should ever come back. Now see the line. And both that morning, the poet reaches earlier in the morning that place, that junction, and he notices that both roads were looking equally, and there were leaves, and no one has trodden and turned the leaves black. Oh, I kept the first for another day. Then, spending some time there, he decided to take the one and kept the first one for another day. Yet knowing how way leads on to way, he was well known that it is not possible for him to come back because the one road leads to another and so on. He had suspicion that he would ever come back. He would be not able to come back there. In the third stanza, the poet says that nobody had walked on either road that day as the freshly fallen leaves lay untrodden up. The poet chose to save the first road for another day while he took the second one that day. He wondered whether he would ever return to take the first road, as he knew that one road would lead to another and so on. So it is in the life too. It is also in our life too. One decision leads to another, and we cannot return to change or alter earlier decisions. See the fourth and final stanza of this poem, The Road Not Taken. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Here, the two roads diverge in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. See the first line. This line is the example of I shall be telling this with a sigh. This line is example of the poet's failure in choosing the right path. The words shy reflect that he is disappointed with the decision. Somewhere ages and ages hence, two roads diverge in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by. The poet accepts the fact that he is failure in taking the right decision. Perhaps he chose the less traveled one. Last line, and that has made all the difference. The poet took the path that no else followed no one else troubled, and that is what has made the difference in his life that made him successful. Poetry is written in the rhetorical language. So in this poem, the poet has used figure of speech. Figure of speech is a departure from the ordinary form of expression or the ordinary course of ideas in order to produce a greater effect. In other words, you can say figure of speech is a word or expression in which the real meaning is not used, but it is used in an imaginative way to create a special effect. Poet has used simile, metaphor, personification and imagery in this poem. First you should know what is simile. Simile is a figure of speech, and in a simile, comparison is made between the two objects of different kinds which have, however, at least one point in common. The simile is usually introduced by such words like as or so. Again, I am telling the definition. In a simile, a comparison is made between two objects of different kind which have at least one point in common. Simile usually introduced by such words as like, as or so. Example, as proud as peacock, as clear as cluster, as just as fair, as just as fair. Example of the poem. Metaphor. Metaphor, what is metaphor? A metaphor is an implied simile. It does not, like the simile, state that one thing is like another, but takes that for granted and proceeds as if two things were one. Again, I am repeating the definition. A metaphor is an implied simile. It does not, like simile, state that one thing is like another, but takes that for granted and proceeds as if two things were one. Example, camel. The camel is the sip of the desert. The camel is the sip of the desert. Life is dream. One more example, road not taken. The title of the poem is a example of metaphor. Personification. In personification, inanimate objects and abstract notions are spoken as having life and intelligence. Again, I am telling the definition. In personification, inanimate objects and abstract notions are spoken as having life and intelligence. Example, laughter holding both her side. And more example, wanted where. Wanted where. Imagery. Most of the imagery in the poem is visual in nature, like the yellow woods denoting autumn, the roads bent in undergrowth, grassy road and morning. Poet has used symbolism in this poem. The two roads are a symbol of two choices of our life. Now, theme of the poem. I am going to tell you about the theme of the poem. The theme of the poem is the decision that face us in the different stages of our lives. How decisions we take define our destiny, our luck. There is also angle of curiosity of what would have happened if the decisions had been different. I am repeating again. Theme of the poem. The theme of the poem is the decision that face us in the different stages of our life, and how the decisions we take defines our destiny or luck. There is also a curiosity, there is also angle of curiosity of what would have happened if our decisions had been different. Now see the summary of this poem. I am going to tell you the summary of this poem. It will be helpful for you in understanding the poem. See the summary. The poet, one autumn morning, is standing at the junction, at the fork, which leads to two diverging roads, both equally appealing, attracting, beautiful. He was wondering which one to choose, which one to take. He chooses the second one over the first one, thinking he would come back to walk the first one, the first road, another time. The poet is, however, clear that he may ever come back to another time, as one road leads to another, just as one decision in our life leads to another, and there is no going back. And then the poet ends the poem thinking, pondering on how different things would have been if he had taken the other routes. Now dear friend, we have explained the poem. I told you about the summary. Here some objective type of question given in section A. I am going to tell you. The first one, time to answer. Section A, choose the correct option. Here the first question given, what is setting of the poem? And option A, an autumn day. Option B, a winter day. So correct option will be an autumn day. What is the setting of the poem? An autumn day. Second question, why does the poet call the wood yellow wood? Option A, because the leaves are yellow. Option B, because the path is printed yellow. So correct answer in this question will be because the leaves are yellow. You know that was autumn season, and autumn season leaves become lifeless and turn yellow, and the poet has used in the poem yellow woods. So what will be the option? Because the leaves are yellow. How many paths? Third question, how many paths did the poet see in the yellow wood? Option A, 3. Option B, 2. So correct option will be 2. Fourth question, the poet says the two roads diverge in a yellow wood. The word diverge means branched off. Option A, branched off. B, continued on. So correct meaning of diverge will be branched off. Question number 5. What is the tone of the poet in the first stanza? Option A, sorrowful. B, hesitant and thoughtful. So correct option will be sorrowful. Now I am going to repeat again. See the objective type of question. What is the setting of the poem? Option A, an autumn day. Option B, a winter day. So correct option will be an autumn day. Second, why does the poet call the wood yellow wood? Because the leaves are yellow. B, because the path is printed yellow. So correct answer will be because the leaves are yellow. Third, how many paths did the poet see in the yellow wood? Option A 3, option B 2. So correct answer will be 2. Option B is correct. Fourth question, the poet says two roads diverge in a yellow wood. The word diverge means branched off, option A, continued, option B. So correct option will be branched off. Fifth, what is the tone of the poet in the first stanza? Option A, sorrowful, option B, hesitant and thoughtful. So correct option will be sorrowful. Section B, answer these questions. First question is, where were the two roads? Where were the two roads? Answer will be, the two roads were in a wood. The two roads were in a wood. Second question, describe the roads that the poet come across. Answer, one road was grassy and covered undergrowth. The other one was grassy too, but less frequented by traveler, so wanted wear. See again. Second answer, one road was grassy and covered undergrowth. The other one, second one, was grassy too, but less frequented by traveler, so wanted wear. Third question, why does the poet feel sorry? The poet feels sorry because he cannot travel on both roads at the same time. Now see the answer again. The poet feels sorry because he cannot travel on both the roads at the same time. Fourth question, what was the poet's dilemma? First, what is dilemma? A situation which we have to make a difficult choice between two things. Dilemma means a situation in which we have to make a difficult choice between two. Now see the question, what was the poet's dilemma? The poet's dilemma was that he wanted to travel on both roads, but he could only take one. Again see the answer. The poet's dilemma was that he wanted to travel on both roads, but he could only take one. Now see the fifth question. See the fifth question. Why did the poet look down as far as he could see? The poet answer, the poet looked down as far as he could see what lies ahead to predict the future. Now see the answer again. Why did the poet look down as far as he could see? The poet looked down as far as he could see what lies ahead to predict the future. Now see the sixth question. Which line in the poem tell you that the both roads seemed similar that morning? Now see the answer of the sixth question. The lines in the poem tells us that both the roads seemed similar that morning and both that morning equally lay in leaves no steps had trodden black. Now see once again, the lines in the poem tell us that both the roads seemed similar that morning and both that morning equally lay. In leaves no steps had trodden black. Referenced here, first reference, first context, then took the other as just as fair and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear. The first question given below, what is the other? Answer will be, the other is one of the two roads in front of him. First question of this extract is, what is the other? Answer will be, the other is one of the two roads in front of him. Answer question B, why did the poet take the other? The poet took the other because it had the better claims, which means it was grassy, less trouble, and had better chance at an adventure. Again I am repeating the answer. The poet took the other because it had the better claims, which means it was grassy, less trouble, and had better chance at an adventure. See the third question. How does the poet describe the other? The poet describes it as grassy and wanting wear. See the answer again. The poet describes it as grassy and wanting wear. Now see the second extract of this poem. Oh, I kept fuss for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. First question, what had the poet kept for another day? Answer, the poet kept the first road for another day. What had the poet kept for the another day? Answer will be, the poet had kept the first road for another day. Why do you think there is an exclamation mark at the end of the first line? The answer, there is an exclamation mark at the end of the first line because the poet is sad about not being able to go on the first path. See the answer again. There is an exclamation mark at the end of the first line because the poet is sad about not being able to go on the first path. See the third question. Do you think the poet is doubtful about coming back to particular spot on his journey? Answer will be yes. The poet is doubtful about coming back to this particular spot on his journey because he knows that one way leads to other and perhaps he may never return and take the path. See the answer again. Yes, the poet is doubtful because he knows that one way leads to another and perhaps he may never return and take that path. Now see the third extract. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two road diverged in a wood and I took one less traveled by. And that has made all the difference. First question, what would the poet be telling with a sigh? Is it a sigh of relief or sigh of regret? The answer of this question will be, The poet would be telling with a sigh that he had to make the difficult choice of taking one of the two roads in the woods. It is a sigh of regret. Now see the answer again. The poet would be telling with a sigh that he had to make the difficult choice of taking one of the two roads in the woods. It is sigh of regret. See the second question. What choice did the poet have before him? What choice did the poet make? The poet had, answer of this question, the poet had the choice of taking one of the two roads before him. He took the road that was less traveled. Now see the answer again. The poet had choice of taking one of the two roads before him. He took the road that was less traveled. Now see the third question. Do you think the poet is happy with his decision? Give reason for your answer. Answer C. I think the poet is not happy with his decisions about not taking the first road. But he seems happy with his decisions of taking the second road, less troubled, because it was more inviting and promised to be adventurous. Now I'm repeating the answer again. C. I think the poet is not happy with his decision about not taking the first road, but he seems happy with his decisions of taking the road less traveled because it was more inviting and promised to be adventurous. Okay friends, in this poem down given some word meaning I am telling you. When you get the book you will see meaning. You have to learn diverged. First word diverge. Diverge means branched off or moved in a different direction. Undergrowth. Undergrowth means small trees and plants growing beneath larger trees. Fair, promising, and one more meaning given, favorable. Trodden, walked on. Again I am repeating these words. Diverged, branched off, one more meaning given, moved in a different direction. Undergrowth, small trees and plants growing under larger trees. Fair, promising, favorable and favorable. Trodden, walked on. Except of these words, if you are getting any other difficult word, you can underline, and when our classes will run, then I will give you the meaning, solve your problems. Before closing, I would like to request you that you should learn, since it is memorizing, first poem is memorizing poem, you have to learn this poem. So when you learn it, finish it earlier, it will be beneficial for you. This one is memorizing poem and you have to learn this poem. I hope you will be able to finish it. Now I am going to close the session. Okay friends, now I am going to close this session. Thank you very much.